Mandian, shall we start?
Start?
Shall we start or shall we wait for a while?
Okay, sir.
Okay, due to unavoidable circumstances, Dr. P. Karthikeyan could not take the class. Instead of him, I am about to deliver the lecture. So far we have seen in the context we have seen about primary production of broilers, and we have seen about primary and further processing. Then we have in real time what are the products available in the market. In the context we have seen all the three. Then in the second session we have seen about the safety concerns related to poultry meat and their products. So mainly we have seen microbial and chemical hazards. We have got an overview about the food safety hazards that are pertaining to poultry meat. Then we have given special emphasis to some of the host-specific pathogens. Like we have given emphasis to Salmonella and Campylobacter. With respect to viruses, we have given emphasis to avian influenza. All the three are pertaining to poultry. Then the important chemical issue, antibiotic residue, has been seen. Thereafter, we have seen about process-induced contaminants, mainly heterocyclic amines and polyaromatic hydrocarbons. They are mostly found in cooked as well as smoked meat products. The present days, the consumption of barbecue chicken and is getting increased. Because of that, we have given emphasis to polyaromatic hydrocarbons. So far, we have completed the context and we have seen about the safety concerns related to the context. From the session of Dr. Thangapandian on meat inspection, we have started with the strategies to control the hazards, whether it is a chemical hazard or biological hazard. We are seeing about the ways and means by which we can eliminate or reduce the hazards. So one such way is application. One such way is meat inspection that is being conducted mainly during primary processing of poultry. That will be carried out by a qualified veterinarian. This is one way to reduce the hazards that entering into the human supply chain. The second way, important part that can reduce the hazards in the poultry meat is the cleaning and sanitation. The third one is employee hygiene. So today we are going to hear in this session we are going to see about cleaning and sanitation of meat processing plant as well as employee hygiene. So let me start with cleaning. Cleaning, what we are going to talk is all about all are related to meat processing plant, or it is applicable to all type of food processing plant. So generally the term cleaning denotes the elimination of organic matter, especially oil, grease, protein, whatever is the food residues that is in the floor of the food processing plant. We are eliminating these organic matter using appropriate chemicals under recommended conditions. For each chemical, there is a recommended condition. For example, the chemical may require particular pH, particular hardness of water. So we have to provide a recommended conditions and use appropriate chemicals to ensure cleaning. So, and the second thing is the cleaning is an important prerequisite for ensuring effective sanitation. Sanitation involves a reduction in microbial pathogens in the surface that we will see later. So, but the thing is, cleaning mainly ensure elimination of organic matter or food residues, or we can say it as soil present in the food processing plant. So while it is very important to choose right cleaning agent, because if you don't choose a particular, for example, you may process cereal products and you may use a cleaning agent that is pertaining to a food processing plant that prepare products rich in protein. So it won't be a suitable cleaning agent. So and further it may reduce the effectiveness of your sanitizing, because if the cleaning agent won't properly remove the soil, so in the presence of organic matter, all the sanitizing agent will lose their potency considerably. So, cleaning open plant is a concept which is a resource intensive process. This ensures the clean surface with the minimum expense of resources and with minimum impact on the surface being cleaned. This concept is recently being followed in all the food processing plants to ensure efficient cleaning of the area. This takes into consideration it takes into consideration the correct method of cleaning and optimizing the cleaning cycle, and as well as choosing a correct cleaner. This ensures the resource intensive cleaning open plant. Here we have given a table that shows how the resources are efficiently utilized as per cleaning open plant concept. It gives more emphasis to labor and supervision, and it gives less emphasis to water supply, treatment, and purchase. Then GMP is one of the prerequisite program in any food processing plant, and it has a definite link with plant sanitation program. So we all know that there are a set of prerequisite program or best practices that are all prerequisite to implement an efficient HACCP program, hazard analysis critical control program. Then what is GMP? It is GMP expanded as good manufacturing practices. So that means it requires that all basic preventive measures that are needed to produce an acceptable food and a hygienic condition. That means this GMP ensures hygienic conditions in the processing environment. So we have to adapt these good manufacturing practices to ensure that the area in which we are producing, as well as it also ensures the hygiene of the equipment that are being used for the processing. Example of one of the GMP activity is cleaning and disinfection. That is, we have to carry out cleaning and disinfection at least once a day. This is one of the best practice or a prerequisite program to ensure hygiene and safety of your product that is being prepared. Generally, this cleaning and disinfection process involves several stages. It starts with pre-clean, the cleaning process has several stages. The first stage is pre-clean, which involves removal of gross soil, where soil mentions the protein, carbohydrate, or fat, as the case may be. In our case, we are processing poultry meat, so the soil will be rich in protein as well as fat, but they will be less than carbohydrate, because the muscle possesses less than 1% of carbohydrate. So our pre-clean is mainly to remove the gross soil. For that matter, we use scrapers, brooms, shovels, brushes to ensure that pre-clean. By the way, we are removing the gross soil. Then the next step is to rinse the area that has been pre-cleaned. The purpose of rinse is to remove minor soil, which are the particle size of the soil will be very small, and this rinse will ensure removal of such minor soils, for which we are using potable water to rinse the area that has to be cleaned. And the third stage in the cleaning process is clean itself. This provides a visual clean to the surface. So in this stage, what we will do is we will apply detergent. Detergents are the agents that loosen the soil material that adhere to the surface of the either food contact surface or the floor in the food processing plant. So by the application of detergent, we ensure the visual clean of the surface. Then again, after application of detergent, after leaving for a considerable period of time, to get the detergent contact with the surface, we go for rinsing. So rinsing ensures the soil that has been loosened by the detergent, and as well as it removes the detergent that has been used to loosen the soil. So for that matter, we use hot potable water at the temperature of 40 to 50 degrees centigrade. We should not increase the temperature of hot water, because if you increase the temperature, the protein that are attached to the surface may go for denaturation. So it tightly bound with the surface. Then it would be very difficult to remove. Then the next step in the cleaning process is disinfection, which involves killing of most of the microorganisms that are on the surface. For that matter, we use chemical disinfectants that ensures the killing of most of the microorganisms. When apply these disinfectants, we use low pressure so that we can form a large droplets. Then the next step in the cleaning and disinfection process is rinsing, which remove the dead microorganism from the surface. The microorganisms that have been killed by the disinfectants are removed by the rinsing process. For that matter, we use potable water under medium pressure. Finally, we go for the drying of surface, because the drying, as I already told to you, that water activity is the important factor, or the free water available is the important factor that prevents growth of microorganisms. So if you dry the surface and there is no availability of water, the microorganism cannot grow, multiply and colonize the surface area. So for that matter, we have to dry the area, for which we are using air. So to take the different stages of sanitation program, we use 4 major factors in combination to ensure efficient cleaning as well as sanitation of the equipment. The 4 major factors are: one is mechanical or kinetic energy, and the second one is chemical energy, and the third one is temperature or thermal energy, and the fourth one is time. So, for example, in the cleaning process itself, we have seen to ensure pre-clean, we are using items like scrapers, brooms. Here, we apply some mechanical pressure to remove the grass soil. So, this comes under your mechanical energy. So, then the second one is chemical energy. So, in this case, we are using detergents or some disinfectants that are coming under your chemical energy. The concentration and the suitable cleaning and sanitizing agent are considered under the chemical energy category. The temperature and thermal energy. For example, while using potable water, we are using the temperature of 40 to 50 degrees centigrade. While applying potable water, we are applying at particular pressure. These are all, especially the temperature is coming under the thermal energy. For example, as I told you, if you increase the temperature, then it will cause denaturation of protein, and that soil get strongly linked to the surface. Then it will be difficult to remove. Then the fourth important factor is time. So whether you apply mechanical energy or chemical energy, it should be applied for a considerable period of time. Then only we can ensure efficient removal of soil from the surface of the floor or from the meat contact surface. So actually there are different cleaning systems. So they use use these 4 factors in different combination to ensure efficient cleaning. So if you restrict one energy source, then you have to compensate using other inputs. For example, if you reduce your mechanical energy, it has to be compensated with chemical energy or thermal energy. So if you want to clean a particular area which requires extended period of time, then we can think of soak tank operation, wherein it will reduce. Here we are using one input, and as we are soaking, it will ensure wetting of the product, as well as it will efficiently remove the soil from the surface. So we can reduce the mechanical energy, as well as we can reduce the chemical energy. This is because that we can reduce the detergent concentration, as well as we can reduce the temperature, as well as dressing of the surface. Then we will see the chemistry of cleaning, which involves several physical and chemical reactions. So the physical reactions that entangle with the cleaning are wetting, penetration, emulsification, disposal, and solubilization are the primary physical reactions that are related to cleaning. So let me start with wetting. Actually, wetting is defined as displacement of one fluid from a solid surface by another. That means what I want to say is the term fluid denotes both liquid as well as gas. So here what I want to say is we are using a fluid. That means either we will take that water. Then in the use of water, we are either removing we are removing the fluid. That means either it may be a air or it may be a semi-solid or liquid substance like grease, oil, and fat. So in this case, what we do, for example, in most of the cases, we use the water as a wetting agent. What it will do, when we throw the water over the surface, it will remove the air over the surface, thereby ensure wetting. So to achieve the wetting efficiently, some of the chemical agents known as surfactants can also be used to ensure efficient wetting. So for example, you assume this is the soil particle, it may be either carbohydrate or protein or fat that has attached to the surface. The brown part denotes the surface. So when you don't apply any wetting agent over the surface, that soil particle, you assume that it is a fat particle, there won't be any gravity influence over the surface of the soil particle. So when you go for pre-clean, it may, we won't go for wetting. However, though there is a meager reduction in the gravity influence, however, the gravity influence will be there. So when you go for wetting, that compound gaining a gravity influence, then it covers a large area. So as the time increases, there is increase in improved wetting. So at one fine time, it ensures complete wetting of the surface. So these wetting agents and surfactants, they enter between the soil particle and the surface, thereby they plan to loosen the soil particle from the surface. So you can see this diagram in two ways. One is when a surface is not, when we go for pre-clean, the contact between the soil particle and the surface will be like this, and the influence of gravity will be less. And if we go on applying different stages of cleaning, then it will proceed like this, right? Then the second this one physical reaction is penetration. So whichever cleaning procedure you are on, wetting is the first essential step to remove the soil. As I told you, this wetting agent or surfactant place themselves between the soil and the surface. And doing so, the detergent which is in the wetting agent, so usually you should know one thing, the detergent is not made up of a single compound, it is a combination of several compounds. Each compound has its own function in the detergent. So now you assume that we have applied a wetting agent. Along with it, we have added detergent. So this detergent also move along with the wetting agent between the soil and the surface. So further, this detergent are able to penetrate deep porous area in the floor, and thereby they facilitate the removal of soil from the surface. That means it easy remove the attachment between the soil particle and the surface. Then the third step is third physical reaction related to cleaning is emulsification. We all know the emulsion consists of two components. One is continuous phase and the second one is disposed phase, and it is made up of two immersible liquid. So here also we are using the in the detergent composition, what they do is, they, for example, fat, oil, grease get attached to a surface. So when you add this emulsification agent, once the wetting agents loosen the contact between the fat, oil, grease and the floor surface that is to be cleaned, this fat, oil and grease form a droplet. So each droplet, after a period of time, they go on collision with each other. Thereby they form a layer. This layer will try to deposit in some other part of the floor. To avoid this, we have to maintain the fat, oil, grease in a droplet form. To ensure this, we are using this emulsifying agent. This emulsifying agent will have hydrophobic as well as hydrophilic ends. So through the hydrophobic ends, they cover the fat droplet and they extend the hydrophilic end to the wetting agent, usually water. By the way, they prevent the collision of fat droplets with each other, which facilitate easy removal of fat from the surface. Then this is the diagram that depicts the emulsification process. This yellow color part denotes the soil that cling to a hot surface. So when you apply a wetting agent, that wetting agent or detergent or surfactant, they go between these surfaces. Initially, the wetting agent will go, along with it, the detergent will go between these surface and this one fat particle, thereby loosen. So these fat particles become a droplet. If you leave it, several oil droplets coalesce together to form a layer that may try to deposit somewhere in the floor itself. To avoid the collision between the particles, we are using surfactants. That surfactants maintain the oil in droplet form so that it will facilitate us to easily remove the fat droplets. Then the next step is this. Another physical reaction is dispersion. This is also similar to emulsification. However, it tries to suspend the particles other than fluid droplets. Usually, this fat oil, collectively called as fat oil and grease, are either in liquid or semi-liquid form. But the dispersal do the same aspect of emulsification. It brings the solid particle, fine solid particle, in suspension as emulsification done for fat, oils, and greases. In this case, also we are using some electrically charged particles that go over the solid particles, so that the solid particles won't coalesce with each other. So these electric charges are of same charge, so that once they have coated the solid particles, they use to repel each other, so they won't coalesce. So this is principle behind the dispersion. Then another one is solubilization. So this involves, actually, in case of emulsification, we have formed fog droplets. In case of dispersion, we have formed solid particles in suspension. But in solubilization, as the name implies, it will dissolve. It will dissolve the soil particles. For example, if it is a fat droplet, and we will have a component in our detergent which acts as a fat solvent, it will dissolve the fat particles. Or if the soil is in protein nature, and we will use the solvent that dissolve protein, so that these soils get solubilized in the wetting agent containing detergent or cleaning agents. Commonly used solvents are alcohols, glycol esters. So now the one thing I want to mention is, not if you take one detergent, that detergent won't do all these activities. They will take, depending on the soil, they will design. They will, for example, if they want to remove the fat, oil, grease by solubilization, they will incorporate some solvent. If they want to remove it by emulsification, they will add emulsification agent. So it is like customized. We can customize our detergent based on our requirement. Then the second one is chemical reactions. Cleaning also involves chemical reactions. One of the chemical reactions involved in cleaning is hydrolysis of protein and carbohydrate. As I already told to you, the soil is nothing but made up of organic matter. The organic matter is nothing but your protein and carbohydrate. So what happens is when the cleaning procedure is taking place, some of the compound that is present in the detergent will ensure the hydrolysis of protein and carbohydrates. What happens during hydrolysis? Usually we are using alkalis and acids in detergent as a hydrolyzing agent. What they do is protein. We all know that protein is made up of amino acids, and the amino acids are linked to each other by peptide bonds. Similarly, carbohydrate is nothing but repeated units of monomeric molecules of saccharide. So they are linked by some bond. They are also linked by glycosidic linkage. So what these acids and alkali will do is they split the bond between the amino acids in case of protein as well as glycosidic linkage in case of carbohydrate. That way they disintegrate the complex polysaccharide and the complex protein molecules that cling to the surface of the floor, and thereby ensure efficient removal of such soils. Similarly, saponification is mainly meant for fat oils and greases. These saponification involves hydrolysis of fat oil and greases. To ensure saponification, we use some alkali agents that brings about the saponification. Actually, we all know that saponification involves soap formation. What happens during saponification? It breaks down the triglyceride molecules into glycerol and fatty acid, and then these fat molecules coupled with the alkali, thereby there is soap formation. They also contribute in efficient removal of fat oil grease, as well as they also contribute to removal of soil on the surface. Then the third chemical reaction involved in cleaning is chelation. Chelation is nothing but coupling of metal ions to an agent. We call them as chelants or sequestrants. So the chelants and sequestrants we incorporate in the detergent composition. These compounds will chelate or bind with the calcium, magnesium, and iron ions present in the soil. By the way, they facilitate the removal of these ions from the food contact surface. So, suppose if they have, further these chelating agents or sequestrants prevent the formation of microcrystals. Because, for example, if there is calcium ion, so every day it goes on deposit. So one calcium ion binds with other, so on it goes. Thereby they form the scale of microcrystals. So these chelating agents prevent the growth of such scale microcrystals. Thereby prevent the extensive formation of microcrystals on the surface of the food processing surface or in food contact surface. Generally, this chelating action of main chelants and sequestrants takes place at low alkalinity, and further, if they are hard formed scales that cannot be removed by these chelants or sequestrants. Then enzymolysis, some of the detergent manufacturers, they incorporate some of the enzymes that facilitate easy removal of soil of protein as well as lipid nature, so thereby ensure efficient cleaning. The commonly employed enzymes are protease, lipase, and amylases. Generally, in the meat processing plant, we won't use amylase as there is as the carbohydrate content in the meat is very less. Sometimes in the processing plant, sometimes in further processed product they may use this, because in further processed product we use some of the carbohydrate rich compound as ingredient. So these proteases, as in case of alkali hydrolysis, these proteases break down the protein into amino acid, as well as the lipases break down the lipid component into fatty acid and glycerol, and they facilitate the easy removal of the soil from the surface. And they are effective at mild pH conditions. Then now you have come to an idea that a detergent is not made up of a single compound, it is combination of several compounds, and it may be customized based on the food plant requirement. So when you develop a detergent, we should have adequate technical knowledge is essential when developing a detergent. If I'm a person to develop a detergent for a particular processing plant, I should have knowledge on different type of soil and what are the raw material and ingredients being used in a particular food processing plant, and then only I can effectively design my detergent. So while designing a detergent, we have to take into consideration the type of soil that cling to the surface. Then second one is nature of the surface that has to be clean. Then the third one is water hardness, and the fourth one is method of cleaning. Because some of the agents, some of the chemical agents, they are effective in some type of soil, whereas others not. For example, if you incorporate protease in your detergent composition, and you are using the material in some of the cereal-based product, it won't efficiently work. So that's why we have to take into these four factors while designing a detergent. And further, we have to take into consideration, we have to give due consideration to the requirements of the food business operator or food processing plant manager, as well as and food processing operator also should be capable enough to choose various commercial formulation available in the market. The usual component of detergent includes alkalis, acids, chelating agents, surfactants, corrosion inhibitors, enzymes, oxidizing agents, stabilizer, viscosity modifiers. Actually, not all detergent that is being formulated will have all these components. So depending on the customer requirement, it will be, or depending on the processing plant requirement, they will design their detergent. Then next, so far we have seen about the cleaning of food processing plant, particularly poultry processing plant. The second part is sanitation. Because we have seen the last part of this one cleaning is sanitation using some chemical disinfectant. So thereafter we have to rinse. In some case of in some disinfectants they recommend rinsing, and some disinfectant the rinsing is not required. So this disinfectant or sanitation is the component of it is a stage in cleaning process. So we should also have a thorough idea about sanitation of your processing plant. So sanitation is the term simply denotes application of heat or chemicals which ensure 99.99 reduction, percentage reduction of pathogenic microorganisms that are present on the surface. So what sanitation ensures? It ensures 99.99 reduction in pathogenic microorganisms on the surface. It can be ensured by sanitizers. This sanitizer may be either heat or it may be some of the chemicals. Usually in Europe, the term sanitizer includes both detergent and disinfectants. In modern world, the new commercially available agents possess both cleaning detergent property as well as disinfectant property. Usually, yesterday we have used detergent separately as well as disinfectant separately. At present day, the detergent and disinfectant are available in combination. So in Europe, such compounds are available. They are collectively called as sanitizer. And the term disinfectant means this is designed to kill the microbes, but they do not ensure removal of soil. Then sanitization does not ensure sterilization, because sterilization is a process that kills all, it removes all forms of life. All it destroys all forms of life. That means whether it is a vegetarian cell or spore, all will get eliminated by the process of sterilization. The difference between sanitation and disinfectant is sanitation is usually applied to the floor, and whereas disinfectant is applied to food contact surfaces. Then principles of disinfectant, whenever you use agent to sanitize or disinfect a particular surface, this sanitization procedure or the disinfectant procedure ensures a reduction of 3 to 4 log organisms per centimeter square. For example, your floor has 7 log organisms per centimeter square. Means after cleaning and disinfectant, the number of organisms get reduced to 3 to 4 log organisms per centimeter square. So the cleaning alone ensures 3 to 4 log reduction per centimeter square. So the rest of the organism also has to be removed. For that matter, we go for the procedure called disinfection. So the cleaning is which involves use of wetting agent, surfactant, and detergent. So doing so, we can reduce nearly 3 to 4 log organisms per centimeter square. However, the rest of the 3 to 4 log organism will be on the surface, that has to be removed by disinfection procedure. So as I already told you, sterilization means which involves elimination of all forms of life. That means the vegetative cells as well as the spores get eliminated from the surface. In the food contact surface, we don't require sterilization, and it is neither practical or it is not necessary. Because even when we prepare some canned meat products or when we prepare some processed products, we never achieve absolute sterilization. We go for commercial sterilization to ensure nutrient content in our product. Similarly, here also, if you go for complete sterilization, then it is cost involved, and further it is not necessary to. So it is better to use a optimum suitable disinfectant agent to reduce the number appreciably, not to achieve complete sterilization. This cleaning of microbes and disinfection can be done by several methods. So the commercially available disinfectants they ensure the killing of microorganisms by several means. Some of the disinfectants they disintegrate the cell wall. They affect the integrity of cell wall. Some of the disinfectants they affect the critical metabolic activity of the microbial cell. They enter into the microbial cell. They affect some of the critical metabolic activity of the microorganism, thereby ensure the killing of microorganisms. Some of the disinfectants act as an oxidizing agent, that they induce the oxidation. So once it gets induced, the free radical reaction starts within the bacterial cell, that ensures killing of bacteria. In some occasions, the non-oxidizing agents can also be used. This can be used. They are highly heat stable and they are less corrosive, and they additionally have residual biocidal or biostatic effect. That means if you apply today, you need not apply the disinfectant for another 3 or 4 days, because they produce a delayed effect. So some of the non-oxidizing agents have delayed effect. This diagram depicts the mode of action of different type of disinfectants to kill the microorganism. For example, parasites, they enter into the bacterial cell through proton motive force, and they couple with the plasma proteins. Thereby, these important plasma proteins that are essentially needed for metabolic functions. Thereby, they kill the microorganism. Once they get coupled, the plasma protein cannot carry out the important metabolic activities, so that they ensure the death of bacterial cells. Some oxidizing agents for example, halogens and peroxides, they brings about they act as an oxidizing agent. They brings about oxidizing effect on the cell membrane. Thereby, they induce free radical reaction that will bring about death of the organism. Some of the organisms act as an alkylating agent, and thereby they increase the alkalinity within the bacterial cell. Thereby, they bring about they affect the internal physiological status in the bacterial cell. Thereby, they bring about death of the organism. Some of the agents like alcohol, they bring about coagulation of some of the important protein on the surface. Thereby, they kill the bacterial cells. So, similar way, several compounds, for example, quaternary ammonium compounds, biguanides, amines, they cause the perforation in the cell membrane, thereby leakage of cell contents occurs, thereby they brings about the death of the bacterial cells. Right? So this is the several ways by which these disinfectants act to kill the microorganisms that get attached to the food contact surface or food plant surface. So while disinfectants, as we have designed for detergent, here also we have to take into consideration several factors has to be taken into consideration while designing disinfectant. So or choosing a particular disinfectant. So the disinfectant which we choose should have uniform microbial destruction properties. That means it should have a higher effect on one particular group of bacteria, not another. For example, you are choosing a particular disinfectant that is more effective against gram-positive bacteria and not against gram-negative. It should not be like that. It should have uniform effect on majority of the microbial organism, and at the same time, it should have broad spectrum activity. That means it should have effect against viruses and vegetative bacteria, even against yeast and molds. And also, it has to ensure that kill of these agents, and it should be environmentally resistant. For example, the other agents which we use, for example, on the surface, the cleaning sometimes the cleaning won't be efficient. Because of that, the organic matter might get cling to the surface. So yes, some of the disinfectants won't efficiently kill the microorganism in the presence of organic matter. So it should not be the case. Even in the presence of organic matter, the detergent should act on the microorganism to kill it, and it should be compatible with different types of detergent and soaps, and it should function in different water hardness range, and it should act under variable pH conditions, and it should also have good cleaning properties. These are the ideal properties of a disinfectant, which never exists. So it should be non-toxic, non-irritating, and it should have better water solubility so that it can reach all the areas on the food contact surface. But these are expectations from the ideal disinfectant, and in reality, no one disinfectant has all these properties. So majority of the occasion, we use combination of disinfectant to achieve all these properties. So in addition to the ideal properties we expect for, we also expect this. We expect this particular disinfectant should be non-tainting, and it should be stable, and it should be of easy use, and it should be inexpensive, and the concentration of that particular disinfectant in solution should be easily measured. These are the requirement of the ideal disinfectant, but such a disinfectant never exists. So, the commonly employed disinfectant in a food processing plant are chlorine-releasing compounds, then quaternary ammonium compounds, some of the amphoteric compounds, and alcohol and peracetic acids are commonly employed in food processing plant. So usually to assess the efficiency of sanitizer, we use a test called Chambers test. This test the sanitizer efficiency. This test involves that the sanitizer will be applied to some number of acidic alcohol on a particular surface, and this particular sanitizer has to remove 99.999% of that particular organism. Usually, the concentration range of E. coli used is 75 to 125 million coliform units on a particular surface. Then we will apply the sanitizer. We give a contact time of about 30 seconds at 20 degrees centigrade. Then we will take a surface swab and we will see the number of organisms present at the particular surface. This sanitizer should have reduced 99.999% of the E. coli organism, or in some cases they are using Staphylococcus aureus as a test organism. It has to remove this much amount of organism. Then only that determines the efficacy of your sanitizer. So first we will see about chlorine compound. These are the cheapest disinfectant. They are available in hypochlorite as well as slow release form. The hypochlorites are available in solution form as well as in dry form. For example, calcium hypochlorite bleaching powder, which is available in powder form, sodium hypochlorite, which is available in solution form. So then occasionally the chlorine is also available as gaseous form. So with respect to slow release form, the chloramine and dichlorodiethyl hydantoin are some of the chlorine compounds that are acting as a slow release form. So wherever we require constant action, disinfectant action on a particular surface, we can depend on this slow release form. And as I already told you, this hypochlorite are also available in liquid form. So why they have required the chlorine solution in liquid form is what's the chlorine, whether it is hypochlorite form or calcium hypochlorite, when it gets dissolved in the water, they form hypochlorous acid. That hypochlorous acids are 80 times more effective than hypochlorite ion. So when we dissolve in the water, these hypochlorous acids are formed. They are 80 times more effective than the hypochlorite ion. So we can say that in the liquid form, it will be more effective when compared to hypochlorite solution. However, if the solution is prepared well before application, it may lose the potency. So it has to be prepared before sanitizing. Then, as I told you, hypochlorous acid possesses 80 times more effective than hypochlorite ion, and further it has another advantageous property, like it has activity over wide, it has a broad spectrum of activity, and they are effective even against spores. The only problem, and the two problems with the chlorine compounds are, one is they are readily inactivated by the organic matter. If your cleaning procedure is not efficient, then application of chlorine is waste, because if the organic matter, that is soil, hasn't been removed properly, this chlorine won't be effective. Even if you use it in a liquid form, it won't be effective in the presence of organic matter. The second thing is this: when you use in aldehyde or strong solutions, the chlorine compounds are highly corrosive. So when you apply on the equipment, it may induce corrosion. These are the two disadvantages with the chlorine compound. The second group of compounds are quaternary ammonium compounds, or otherwise known as quats. They are antipolar. Antipolar means they possess both hydrophilic and hydrophobic property, and they are also cationic detergents. They are mainly derived from ammonium salts. In ammonium salts, we substitute some of the reactive group with chlorine or bromine anion. This is your quaternary ammonium compounds. That means in ammonium compounds, we are substituting some of the atoms with chlorine and bromine anion. By the way, we are getting the quaternary ammonium compounds. Actually, they have little effect on the spores. However, they are environmental friendly as well as operator friendly. So as I told you, in case of chlorine, they are corrosive. At the same time, in the presence of organic matter, they won't act. Here also, QC also won't work at its full potential in the presence of organic matter. However, when compared to chlorine compounds, they have better effect even in the presence of organic matter. And another advantage is they have long shelf life. So once you prepare, you can keep it for long period of time. And in the concentrated form, when compared to hydrochloric solution, they are safer and they are relatively non. They are also corrosive. When compared to chlorine compound, they are relatively non-corrosive to the metals. Because of their high surface activity, these chlorine compounds, these quaternary ammonium compounds, form excessive foam on the surface. Hence, it is very difficult to rinse the quaternary ammonium compounds after application. Then other agents that are used as disinfectants are ethyl alcohol, isopropyl alcohol. They are also used as a disinfectant. They also have better bactericidal and virucidal property. However, they don't possess sporicidal property. However, they are also only active in the absence of organic matter, and they are active at a concentration range of 60 to 70%. You should not increase the concentration because it's about denaturation of the protein compounds that are present on the surface. Then it makes it difficult to clean the surface again. The denatured protein gets strongly cleaned to the surface. So they are available commercially. They are available as white also. They are available as spray-based product also. Usually they are applied in small surface areas. They are also suitable for large surface area. Then the other agent that is used as a disinfectant is peracetic acid. They also provides rapid effect, and they also possess broad spectrum of activity. They act by oxidation principles. They bring about oxidation and the cell membrane, and that way induce the free radical reaction. That way ensure the killing of microorganisms. They are also effective against spores. However, they are hazardous to use. Then other commonly employed disinfectants include acetic acid, lactic acid, and propionic acid. They are also used. They are generally recognized as safe chemicals. They are also used to disinfect the meat as such. So because they usually, these are weak acids. They are inorganic acids, and they are available in undissociated form as well as dissociated form. They are in equilibrium. So when you apply, so for example, if you apply 100 molecules of lactic acid over a surface of meat, and the 50% molecule will be available in undissociated form, and 50% of the molecule will be in dissociated form. For example, if you take acetic acid, CH3COOH means CH3COO minus will be 50% of the molecule will be in CH3COO plus H plus ion, and 50% will be as a CH3COOH. So these undissociated molecules are detrimental to the microorganism because they are short chain fatty acids through the cell membrane, bacterial cell membrane. They go inside as undissociated molecule in the aqueous cell environment. They go for equilibration. Because of that, they get dissociated. For example, the 50 molecules that enter undissociated molecule are in the outside. 25% of the undissociated molecule will enter through the cell membrane inside the bacterial cell, where 50% of the 25 molecules go for dissociation. Therefore, there will be increased concentration of hydrogen ion. This leads to cell acidification, thereby ensure death of the organism. By the way, these acidic, lactic, and propionic acid are bringing about bactericidal property. Furthermore, these compounds also possess delayed effect because these compounds have a prolonged effect. If you apply today, you can apply after 3 days because of their delayed action, disinfectant action. So generally, when you take any disinfectant, the efficacy of the disinfectant is controlled by four main factors. The one is interfering substances present in the disinfectant area. For example, presence of organic matter will influence the activity of some of the disinfectants. And the pH, some of the disinfectants will be active in alkaline pH, some will be active in neutral pH, some will be in alkaline pH, acidic pH. So we should know that a particular disinfectant which disinfectant require which pH. Then the temperature. Some of the, if you increase, we all know that for every 10 degree raise, the rate of reaction get doubled or tripled. So to a particular point of so if there is a temperature increase, and there will be definitely increase in the action of disinfectant. However, it is not linear for all the cases. After a period of time, if we increase the temperature, it may decrease the efficacy of disinfectant. Then the concentration and contact time. So concentration of the disinfectant as well as the duration of contact with the food contact surface also determine the efficiency of a particular disinfectant. So in general, all disinfectants lose their potential. Though not completely, they lose some of their potential in the presence of organic matter. Of the disinfectant study, the chlorine lose majority of this activity in the presence of organic matter. So seeing all this, when we formulate a disinfectant, we have to use several biocidal components pulled together when we prepare a disinfectant, because this will ensure two things. It will eliminate all the microorganisms on the surface. For example, some of the microorganisms will be resistant to a particular biocide, whereas some will be not. So in such condition, a residual microorganism will be left on the surface. For example, my disinfectant plant has only one disinfectant. I apply over the floor in the food processing plant. Some of the microorganisms on the floor are resistant to that particular disinfectant. What will happen? The sensitive microorganisms get die off, whereas the resistant population won't get killed by the disinfectant which I apply. What will happen? Course of time, this resistant population will colonize the entire surface area. So thereafter, if you apply the particular disinfectant, it won't be effective for that particular organism, because already they have developed resistance against the particular disinfectant. When you use combination of biocides, even one biocide is not effective, the other biocide will kill that resistant population, so they won't leave any of the microorganisms to survive. So thereby we can effectively ensure the sanitation of particular area. So now we have seen different disinfectants, and we have seen different detergents and disinfectants, and how we are going to apply these detergents and disinfectants over the equipment surface, or over the food contact surface, or over the floor in the food processing plant. Either these disinfectants may be applied manually. If it is a large processing plant, it is not practically possible, and this method can be applied only to a small pieces of machineries or a component of a large machinery. We can use this manual cleaning. Or if your equipment part is non-waterproof, in such condition also we can depend on manual cleaning. So the second mode is foam cleaning, in which this is a standard procedure being applied in majority of the meat, poultry, and other food processing plant worldwide. In this procedure, a food blanket is created over the surface to be cleaned and disinfected. So what we are doing is we form a food blanket. You see, this is the equipment surface over which we develop a blanket using the foaming agent. So this foaming agent form a foam over the entire surface of the equipment that has to be cleaned and disinfected. And we give a contact time period of 15 to 20 minutes. This foam is applied through the nozzle. So it is applied through the nozzle over the surface of the equipment. And after allowing for 15 to 20 minutes, we can rinse off the foam blanket using water. So during that contact period, it removes the soil deposit over the surface of the equipment, or surface. Then during rinsing, it removes the deposits from the surface of the equipment or floor. This method can be applied for floor, walls as well as some of the equipment. Then other method of application is other method of application of cleaning and disinfectant agent is gels. So this particular chemicals, whether it is disinfectant or cleaning agent or a combination of both, we can make it in the form of gel. This gel will be applied or sprayed over the surface of the food contact surface or floor. By the way, they form a thin viscous layer over the surface of the equipment or floor, as foam formed as a blanket over the surface of equipment. So this method can be applied only to a small areas. A large areas, because the requirement of gel will be more, so it can be applied only to small areas. And these gels require very long contact time, even for it has to be cleaned to the surface for several hours. And if the viscosity of gel is higher, it delays the cleaning process. So the viscosity of gels has to be optimal, and it should be applied evenly over the surface of the equipment or floor to be cleaned as thick viscous layer. Then another way of applying this disinfectant or cleaning agent is spraying, and it is seldom used currently. This is a wasteful process. It often make the food plant operators to clean the area again. So, and it is slower and inferior in performance to foam cleaning. Because if you apply the spray over a surface of equipment, vertical surface, then the chemicals will leach out through the water, so it won't bring about efficient cleaning of the surface. Then another way of applying cleaning agents and as well as disinfectant is fogging. And present day, some of the hospitals that treat COVID use this method to disinfect the air that is present in the hospital. So what these foggers will form a mist of disinfectant solutions. This mist of disinfectant solution will hang in the air. The disadvantage of using fogging is it can be applied only to a closed area, closed area, because in open area they get dispersed over a large area. It cannot ensure efficient cleaning. In closed area we can use fogging. So they are capable of, the fogging is capable of reducing the airborne microorganism. So because they form fine droplets and they are suspending in the air for a considerable period of time, so they can reduce the airborne microorganism also. Usually the fogging, the equipment, the foggers usually produce the droplets of 10 to 20 micrometer, and these fogs, then only the fogs will suspend in the air. If the droplet size is more, then because of the high density, they will fall under the ground. They cannot ensure efficient disinfection of air in a particular closed confinement. So then now we have seen different method of application of cleaning as well as disinfectant agent. The final thing is the monitoring of hygiene. So once the cleaning operation has been carried out, cleaning and sanitation operation is carried out, we have to periodically monitor the hygienic condition of the floor or food contact surface. Otherwise, we may think that the particular food contact surface is visually, microbiologically, chemically clean, but in reality it won't be. So for that matter, to monitor the hygiene in a food processing plant, we have to go for trained visual assessment, or we can go for, we can depend on surface analysis and microbiology. So a plant which is visually clean is not necessarily to be microbiologically or chemically clean. This is a proverb in any food processing plant. So what we have to do is we have to go for, there are two ways in which we can monitor. Most rapid systems are available at present date. They are used on daily basis to monitor the overall effectiveness of cleaning and disinfectant in critical areas. One such method, rapid method to monitor the effectiveness of cleaning and disinfection is measuring the adenosine triphosphate on the food residues. The principle behind this technique is the food residues that left over the surface possess some amount of ATP. So when this ATP get contact with luciferin and luciferase, a reaction takes place that results in that emits light. This process is known as bioluminescence. So degree of light emission will indicate the amount of ATP present. The amount of ATP present in turn denote the amount of food residue present on the surface. This is the way we are using this technique to assess the efficiency of cleaning and in a particular surface. So there are commercially available luminators that measures the intensity of light that is being emitted after the reaction. That will be correlated with the concentration of ATP, which in turn will be correlated with food residues left over the surface. In turn, we can think of microorganisms present on the surface. This procedure involves removal of, so we are removing a swab and we are taking the samples from the surface, and then we are again reinserting the swab into the container provided for it. It is a method of sample collection, and this container contain some physiological liquid that maintain the growth of the viability of the organism. It won't contain any material that increase the growth of microorganism. So the microorganism will be alive in this physiological solution. Then we are adding our luciferin and luciferase material to this agent. Then we are assessing the amount of light that has been emitted from this compound. So this is the way the ATP-based bioluminescence technique works. The second way to ensure efficient cleaning is training. Training to all operators and managers in the processing plant is very, very important, because the term we used to say one term called factory blindness or scotoma, which denotes that when we do operation continuously for longer periods, we may feel that we are doing the work perfectly. So if a person related to quality control department who involved in cleaning and sanitation of surfaces, if we do the same work for several years, he may develop scotoma or factory blindness. So periodical training will keep him in awakening state so that we can ensure efficient cleaning by the trained personnel. So when we develop a training module, we should take into consideration, we have to consider five things. One thing is we have to provide a sufficient theoretical background to the trainees. Second one is we have to give a sufficient knowledge about the microbes, and we have to give adequate knowledge on the risk of recontamination of the particular surface, and we have to give importance of the procedure that has been developed in each unit, so that we will definitely follow the procedure to ensure efficient cleaning and disinfection of particular area, thereby ensure the safety. And we also have to provide some knowledge on use of chemicals and equipment. This is very, very important. These components are very, very important when we developing a training module. So an efficient cleaning system, if you use in a meat processing plant, it can reduce the labor cost about 50%. So we have to provide adequate knowledge on on importance of cleaning and sanitation, so that it should improve their knowledge, and it should also improve their attitude, and it should also make the food plant workers to implement all the knowledge and attitude he gathered in action. Thank you. Thank you, participants. Is there any doubt? Is there any doubt? So if no, then we will start with employee hygiene. As Dr. Karthikeyan could not attend due to some administrative reason, I call upon Dr. Rajendra Kumar to deliver the lecture on personal hygiene, requirement of personal hygiene in a meat processing plant. So you should not forget one thing. So we have talked about the context. We have talked about the food safety concerns in that particular context. Now we are studying how we are attending to the food safety concerns we encounter in the context. So previously we have seen about meat inspection. Now we have seen about the importance of cleaning and sanitation. Now we are going to see about employee hygiene to ensure safety of your product. Thank you. Is it audible, sir? Hello? A very good evening to all. So previously, sir has been covering about the cleaning and sanitation of slaughterhouse, poultry processing plant. Now we will see about the role and the importance of employers' hygiene in the meat safety. Since the food gets contaminated in various ways or spoiled by means of various ways, so every precaution should be taken in every ways. What are the possible ways you have to take all sorts of precautions to prevent the contamination. So since we start, humans will be acting as a major source of food contamination, and the people who are working with food or handling the food can transmit a variety of pathogens to the food that may cause illness in the consumer due to the contamination. And the person who is handling the food, that is their hand, the breathing, air, their perspiration, that is sweating, as well as their unguarded cough, sneezes, that can contaminate the food and cause the illness. And transfer of human and animal excreta by the workers is also one of the potential source of all the pathogenic, mycogenic microorganisms that can invade the food supply. That once it gets entered, so it is difficult to remove the pathogens. So you have to take almost all precautions to avoid the entry of pathogens or microbial organisms into the food supply chain. The food industry and the regulatory agencies are nowadays focusing more on the
employee education as well as training, and they are providing training and emphasizing that supervisors and workers to be familiar with the principles of food production and food safety as well as the hygienic principles that is necessary for the food supply chain. So, what is the difference between cleanliness and hygiene? So, cleanliness is nothing but the quality of being clean or quality that is being kept clean. And hygiene is practices conducive to maintaining health and preventing diseases, especially through the cleanliness. So, cleanliness and hygiene is separate. The both should not be used as a synonyms. So, cleanliness is separate and hygiene is the separate. That should not be used. Cleanliness should not be used in the place of hygiene. So, hygiene is nothing but it is practice that is needed for maintaining the health as well as preventing diseases through the cleanliness. So cleanliness is nothing but that is involving all the cleaning activities that is necessary for maintaining the hygiene. So the public health importance of personal hygiene. So the knowledge and practice of personal hygiene are vital in our everyday activities. The purposes are to prevent the fecal-orally transmitted diseases. So, by means of fecal contamination, there are numerous diseases that can be transmitted, and it can prevent it with a good personal hygiene and the aesthetic values of personal hygiene. That is important for the personal hygiene and the social impact. What is the impact that is created by the personal hygiene? So, you get yourself good social impact when you are maintaining all the personal hygiene. So, what are the components of personal hygiene? The first one is the skin. Since the skin is the largest or the largest living organ, it is considered, and it provides four major functions for the living organisms or living human beings, or when you take all the animals, or skin is one of the most important thing. So that acts in that gives major productions and in the form of the following functions, that is protection, sensation, human heat regulation, and elimination. So it offers these major four functions. Among these, the protection is one of the most important functions in terms of the personal hygiene. So when your skin is not protecting yourself from the microbial organisms, you get invaded by the numerous microbial organisms, since our environment is having a lot of microbial organisms in the environment, and the skin has the outermost layer in the epidermis. It's called corneum. So the corneum has almost 25 to 30 rows of cells. So these cells tend to be flatter and softer than the most of the other cells that is beneath the corneum, and the function to the formation of a layer. So, they form a layer, flat layer that is impermeable to the microbial organisms. The dermis is the layer that is underlying next to the corneum, and it is composed of connective tissue, elastic fibers, blood and lymphatic vessels, nervous tissue, muscle tissue, glands, and duct. So these glands of epidermis that secretes the sweats, that is respiration and oil. So when these materials mix with environmental contaminants or environmental substance, that is dust, dirt, grease, and they form an ideal environment for the microbial growth or bacterial growth. So that's why you have to take bath at least twice a day, before early morning and then the late evening also. So So the food handlers, they may rub and scratch the area, that is the skin, and thereby transferring the bacteria to the food. They will rub the skin, and as well as they will handle the food side by side. So thereby they will transfer the bacteria to the food. So among the numerous microbial organisms, the Staphylococcus aureus and the Staphylococcus epidermidis are the two predominant bacterial species that is normally present on the skin. So these organisms are also present in the hair follicles and in the duct of the sweat glands. And these organisms under when there is any cut or when there is any surgical wound, so they may cause abscesses, boils, and wound infections, and during a surgical operation. So when these wounds are not treated properly, or if the skin infection is not treated properly, any mild amount of scratches, if it is not taken care, so they may cause some infections. So because the hands are very tactile, so you use hands for all the purposes. So there is the opportunity for cuts and the natural cause. So uses hands that may contact with a wide variety of microbial organisms. That is evident. So and thereby contaminating. Thereby it will contact with the contaminating bacteria, that is unavoidable. So side by side they will handle the food that leads to the contamination. And next one is the fingers. So bacteria may be picked up through the hand, touching the dirty equipment or contaminated food, clothing, or other areas of the body. So your hand will get contaminated by means of touching the dirty places in the equipment, or unclean environment, or contaminated food or clothing. So when these occurs, so the employees should be aware. So you should use the hand dip sanitizer, or some hand sanitizer may be used to reduce the transfer of contamination. So whenever the contact is unavoidable, so you may open the door or close the door, or whenever you go to the washroom, you touch the facilities there. So that is unavoidable. So they should use the hand dip sanitizer along with them to reduce the transfer of contaminants to the food materials. And then for this, you can use the plastic gloves. Can be used as a solution, and they help to prevent the transfer of pathogenic bacteria from fingers and hands to the food. So whenever you are using these plastic gloves, that may have some psychological effect on the people who are observing the food handlers. So some you go to the factories or some fast food items. So people are handling food after wearing some plastic gloves. So that gives some sort of confidence in the buyers as well as the consumer. So that has some psychological effect. And next one is the fingernails. So one of the easiest ways to spread the bacteria through the dirt is under the fingernails. So in between the finger and the nail, you have the dirt will accumulate if your nail is not get trimmed every week or not often. And the employees with dirty fingernails should never be allowed to handle the food. So they will contaminate and they will transfer the microbial organisms. And washing the hands with soap and water can remove the transient bacteria. And the use of antiseptic or sanitizer in hand soap controls the resident bacteria that is available. That is the bacteria that is normally present in the and that is resident bacteria. And through hospitals have demonstrated that the use of alcohol containing humectants can be one of the only can be used effectively in removing or controlling the both the transient as well as resident bacteria without hand irrigation, without washing or without using of soap and other things. And jewelry. So to reduce the safety hazards in the environment containing machinery. So due environment in poultry processing or further processing plant you may use, there are a lot of machinery will be there. Any faulty handling or any jewelry falling in the machines that will affect the operating system of the machines are also, and it poses threat to the consumer when it is mistakenly packed or with the along with the food material, and any sort of jewelry or any ornaments should not be worn in the crossing area or food service area, and as such it may fall into the food and contaminate the food also. And air. So microorganisms can be found on the air on the employees also. So employees who are now and often they will scratch the head and they will use they should use the hand dip before handling the food, and they should wear the head cap or head covers should be used by the employees, and these head covers should be disposable. Disposable head covers or head caps are available that should be used effectively for preventing falling of air or by the scratching of heads. So next one is eye. The eye itself is normally free from bacteria. So, but some in rare cases there may be some mild bacterial infections may be there, and these when these infections occur, the bacteria will be found on the eyelashes of the eye, that is the eyelids, in the lashes of the eyelids, and at the indentation between the nose and the eye. So there is every possibility that accumulation of bacterial organisms may be there, and by rubbing the fingers rubbing the eyes with the fingers, the finger gets contaminated and they will transfer the bacteria to the food materials. And by mouth. So numerous bacteria are present in the mouth and on the lips. So during the sneezing, coughing, there are bacteria that gets transmitted through the air that may be contaminating on the foods that is being handled by the person who is having the sneezing and coughing problems regularly. So you can avoid this by having the face mask and other mask that is available. So you can avoid this kind of transmission of bacteria to the food material. So next one is nose, nasopharynx, and the respiratory tract. The nose and throat may have more number of microbial organisms than the mouth itself. So this is because nose is one of the effective filtering system that is available. The particles which are larger than 7 micron that gets inhaled will be retained in the upper respiratory tract, and approximately the half of the particle size, that is 3 micron or larger than the diameter, are eliminated or removed in the remaining tract, and the rest gets penetrated. When the particle size is very less, that will get penetrated. Less than 3 micron will get penetrated in the lungs. So employees who are having cold should use hand dip sanitizer after blowing the noses with the sanitizer, and otherwise the bacteria can get transmitted to the food that is being handled, and the discharges from sneeze or cough should be blocked by the elbow or shoulder. So when any coughing or sneezing can be blocked by using the elbow or in the shoulder. The next one is the excretory organs. The intestinal discharges are one of the prime source of bacterial contamination. Since you have all the organisms in the intestine, approximately 30 to 33% of the dry weight of intestine contents of humans is composed of bacterial cells. So it has a lot of organisms, bacterial organisms in the intestine, and the particles of feces collect on the ass and spread to the clothing. So when the employees goes to the washroom, they will pick up some of the intestinal bacteria if their hands are not washed properly, and these organisms will spread to the food products, and food gets infected or contaminated. And humans as a carrier. So humans are the most common contamination source of the food. So the most contamination will come from the people who are working with the food, and the people who transmit diseases as a carrier. Carrier is a person who is harboring and discharging the pathogens, but does not exhibit the symptoms of the disease. So he will not be exhibiting any symptoms, but he can still discharge the pathogenic organisms in the food who in which he is handling. And the carriers can be divided into three groups. They are convalescent carrier, chronic carrier, and contact carrier. Convalescent carrier, people who are recovering, people who are once gets affected after recovering from infectious diseases, and still it will harbor the infective agent, and it will transmit the parasitic agent for a considerable time period, that is less than 10 weeks in some cases. And chronic carriers. Chronic carriers are people who continue to harbor the infectious organisms indefinitely, and they do not show the symptoms of diseases. So without being affected or without being any affected by any diseases, unknowingly you will harbor the infectious organisms, and you will you will spread the diseases or organisms to the food. And contact carrier, people who acquire and harbor a pathogen through close contact with an infected person, but do not acquire the disease. So people may harbor a number of organisms, including staphylococci, streptococci, and the intestinal microorganisms includes the salmonella, shigella, Escherichia coli, and cholera, and infectious hepatitis, infectious intestinal amoebiasis. So there are apart from this, there are numerous organisms that can be people may harbor, and they will transmit the diseases to the food which are handled in a unhygienic manner. That is commonly harbored, streptococci that is commonly harbored in the human throat and intestine are responsible for a wide variety of diseases than other bacteria. They are also responsible for development of secondary infections. After some of the primary infections, when the immunity system gets down, when the immunity goes down, it can the streptococci, which is normally present in the throat and intestine, will take upper hand, that will cause wide variety of diseases. And next one is the staphylococci. So nasal cavity is one of the most important single reservoir of staphylococci infection of humans. That is, it can cause, it has a wide variety of pathogenic varieties of the organism. That is in the staphylococci genus, and it is also a part of the natural skin flora, and it is one of the constant threat to the consumer safety. So if they are permitted to handle the food products. So hand washing when you want to prevent all these infections or all these transmission, the first thing that comes to the mind is the hand washing. That is washing your hand frequently when you are touching the unhygienic areas or unclean areas or the areas which may be contaminated or handling of spoiled food or contaminated food. So everything has to be hand washing is the one methodology where you can prevent these transmission of food from one to the other. So microorganisms found on hand surfaces may be a transient bacteria or a resident bacteria. So transient bacteria are picked up accidentally by the food handlers. For example, E. coli, Salmonella, so which are not resident, which are not resident means which are ubiquitously present in the normally present on the hands and so the transient means that is accidentally picked up by the food handlers and approximately 38% of the food contamination is attributed to the improper hand washing. So due to the improper hand washing, there are almost 38% of the food contamination will be occurred. And it is important for the food handlers to wash the hands thoroughly using hot water and soap. That is preferably liquid soap. So while liquid soap, the bar soaps, one person will handle the bar soap, and second person will handle the soap, say the same soap. So to avoid the transfer of contamination, preferably you can use the liquid soap with automatic discharging units. All parts of the hand and wrist must be washed under running water. And after washing, it is important that hands should be dried thoroughly after washing. There are 6 steps in correct hand washing procedure that consist of wetting the hands in warm water and apply soap or use clean soap water and rub the hands for at least 20 seconds making it like that and giving special attention to the back of your hands and rubbing in between the fingers and down the thumbs as well as in the fingertips, that is under the fingernails, and rinsing with water and drying hands thoroughly with a clean disposable towel or you can use the hair dryer. You can use the hair dryer. So this is the simple procedure that is for the correct hand washing. So normally you can they have suggested double hand washing. Double hand washing. So you do this 6 steps once again. So you can there is the double hand washing. So for a good improvement of hygiene. So hands must be washed. So whenever needed, the hands must be washed before entering the food area and before touching any sort of food. So it may be a meat or it may be a non-meat ingredient or it may be another ingredient or packaging material. So whatever the things that is coming in contact with food, everything before handling food or before entering the area, so you should wash your hands. After handling raw meat, poultry, whether it's live bird or seafood or egg or vegetable, so you should hand wash hand once again. So after using the toilet or touching any surface in the public area, you should wash your hands. Then after coughing into the hands or using a handkerchief, you should wash your hands. After touching the face or hand, after handling waste or cleaning, that is handling chemicals, before and after eating, after changing the baby's nappy, after playing with pets, after handling waste or cleaning, and after smoking. So, because proper hand washing is essential to attain sanitary operation, hand washing is the most important for attaining a good sanitary attention. Some of the plants have employed mechanized hand washers are being used. The typical unit should be located in the crossing area, food crossing area, where the food is handled by the workers regularly. And workers entering the area, they must use the washing unit, washing the hand. And this equipment is responsible for increased hand washing frequency by 300%. These mechanized hand washing. So how it works, mechanized hand washer, the user inserts the hand into a cylinder, into two cylinders, and it activates by passing a photo-optic sensors, which activates the cleansing action. So high pressure jets sprays within each cylinder that will spray the antimicrobial cleaning solution and water on the hands, followed by a portable water rinse. And this can be programmed for 10 seconds to 20 seconds. So the cycle has been clinically proven to be 60% or more effective in removing the pathogenic bacteria from the hands than the average manual hand washing. So it is 60% efficiency is there than the manual hand washing. So requirements for hygienic practices. So management must ensure that it has established a protocol to ensure the hygienic practices by the employees, and the supervisors and managers who are working in the plant should set the example by maintaining a high levels of hygiene and good health by conveying the importance of these practices to the employees. So these practices should be conducted to ensure the personal hygiene. Public health should be maintained and protected through the practice of proper nutrition and physical cleaning. Illness should be reported to the employer before working with food, so that work adjustment can be made to protect the food from employer's illness or diseases. So if any person is affected, so you should be transferred to some, you should be assigned with some other work apart from handling the food items, so that the work adjustments can be made. And hygienic work habits should be developed to eliminate food contamination. And during worship, hands should be washed after using the toilets, after handling the garbages and other soil materials, handling of uncooked food, and handling money or smoking, coughing, or sneezing. So whenever these activities are done, you should wash your hands thoroughly and then go on with your work. So personal and cleanliness should be maintained by daily washing and use of deodorants. So washing hair at least twice a week, cleaning fingernails daily, and using hat or hair net while handling the food, and wearing uniforms for the employees. And employee hands should not touch food service equipments and utensils, and the disposable gloves should be used whenever when contact is unavoidable or is necessary. And the rules such as no smoking should be followed, and other precautions related to the potential contamination should be taken by the employers. So employers who are employing the employees should emphasize the hygienic practices of the employees as follows. So employees should provide a training in food handling and personal hygiene. A regular inspection of employees and their work habits should be conducted, and violation of practices should be handled as disciplinary violations. And the incentives for superior hygiene and the sanitary practices should be provided. And this will, by having this activity, it will improve the hygiene in the employees also. Yes, protection sanitation barrier between food and other sources of contamination should be followed during food handling. Barriers including air nets, disposal gloves, mouth guards, sneeze guards, and food packaging containers should be used for sanitary food handling. And the selection of employees should be predicted upon these facts. So when you are selecting the employee for your food handling businesses or food companies or processing companies, absence of any communicable diseases should be verified through the health card or a physical report or a physician report. Applicants should not exhibit evidence of any sanitary hazard such as open sores or presence of excessive skin infections or sin. So they should be rejected, and applicants who display the evidence of respiratory problems should not be hired to handle the food or to work in the food processing area or food preparation areas. Applicants should be clean, and neatly groomed, and should wear clothing that is free of unpleasant odor. Applicants should successfully complete a sanitation course, and examination are very preferable to work in the food processing area. So requirements of personal hygiene. Food organization should establish personal hygienic rules that are clearly defined, uniformly and rigidly enforced. So any organization they should enforce a set of rules, hygiene rules that should be clearly defined, and it should be uniformly followed, and it should be clearly enforced, and it should be forcibly enforced or to the employees. These regulations should be documented, posted, and it should be clearly given in the form of booklets to the employees who are working there. And the policies should address the personal cleanliness, working at a acceptable food handling practices, and the use of tobacco and other prohibited materials should be clearly mentioned on the booklets. So, what are the activities that should be followed in this certain area? What are the activities that should be followed or that should be avoided in this area? That should be clearly given in the booklets. And facilities. Food handling and processing equipment should be constructed according to the regulations of the appropriate regulatory agencies. So the food processing equipment or food handling and equipment should be constructed according to the regulations that is given by the regulatory agencies. So this FSSAI has given regulations for food handling and food processing equipment that should be constructed according to the regulation that is given there in the FSSAI. The welfare facility should be clean, neat, well lighted, and conveniently located away from the production areas. And the restroom should have self-closing doors. It is also preferred that the hand washing station should have foot or knee operated faucets that supply water at a 49 to 50 degrees centigrade is essential. And remotely opened liquid soap dispensers are recommended because bars of soap can increase the transfer of water from one person to the other person. And the disposable sanitary towels are best for drying the hand. And the consumption of snacks, beverages, and other foods, as well as the smoking, should be confined to a specific area, which should be clean and free of insects and spills. So it should be away from the production or processing zone. The clean separate area should be given for the consumption purposes or smoking purposes. So employee supervision. So employees who handle the food should be subjected to the same health standards used in the screening prospective employee. The supervisor should observe employees daily for infected cuts, boils, respiratory complication, and other evidence of infection. They should, whenever these occurrences are there, they should report immediately, and necessary action should be taken on the employee. And the employee responsibilities, although the employee is responsible for conduct and practices of employees, the responsibility should be assigned to the employees also at the time of employment beginning. So employees should maintain a healthy condition and to reduce the respiratory or gastrointestinal disorder and other physical ailments. And injuries including cuts, burns, boils, skin eruptions should be reported to the employees, and abnormal conditions such as respiratory complications and intestinal disorders such as diarrhea should be reported to the employer, and personal cleanliness should be practiced, including daily bathing, air washing, and maintenance of clean fingernails should be done, and employees should tell the supervisor that items such as soap, towels in washrooms are not there and it should be replaced. So habits such as cracking the head or other body parts should be stopped. The mouth and nose should be covered during coughing or sneezing. The hands should be washed after visiting the toilet using a handkerchief, smoking, handling soiled articles, handling money. And hand should be kept out of food. Food should not be tasted from the hand, and nor it should be consumed in food production areas. And food should be handled in utensils that are not touched with the mouth. And the rules related to the use of tobacco should be enforced in the housing area. And in summary, the management must select clean and healthy employees and ensure that the management should conduct the hygienic practices to the employees, and the employees must be held responsible for the personal hygiene so that the food they handle remains wholesome, and the quality should be maintained until it is reaching the consumer. Thank you all. So if you have any doubt, you can ask. So okay, thank you. Thank you. We will close the session for today, and we will join in by tomorrow 10 o'clock for the session. Thank you, sir. Thank you all.